Okay.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Harvest, where we talk about everything cinema and story, and as we grow, you grow. As we learn, you learn. My name is Xavier Garcia.
And I'm Jonathan Garcia.
And this is episode number 10.
Yes.
The 1-0. We've cracked the single digits.
Yeah, it's a big deal. This is great.
I think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing really good things from friends and stuff, really interested. Like, wow, this is great. I never thought, this is somewhere you guys were going to go. And we were just excited because we had so much over the years that we've built up that we want to get out.
It's been encouraging because we were really, really hoping and wanting this to be a resource for others. And not that we're anything special, but we've had some pretty interesting and very unique experiences. And I think that there are individuals out there that perhaps may, learn along with us, as we've learned sometimes the hard way, sometimes the easy way, sometimes just by doing it. I think that it's a great resource. Yeah,
and we discussed, I know we want to move into the episode, but we discussed about, how is this going to continue even after all this over COVID. And we talked about even taking this on set into some of our films. So, it's not going to be the end for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to try our best to be very consistent, and weekly continued dropping episodes on every Tuesday. The episodes drop Tuesdays at 2 p.m. And so we're going to stay consistent with that, even if we're filming, which there's a possibility of that in the very near future. We can talk about that in this episode.
Cool.
Episode 10. All right. So today we will be discussing how we at Mount Harvest have been organizing and communicating with our team during this world pandemic, and I'm not one to be an alarmist and continue going back to the whole COVID-19 thing because I know people want to escape, but it is the reality that we are in. And so we might as well just kind of discuss a little bit about how we stay organized, how we stay productive, how we stay effective and communicative with our team during this time. We're going to be highlighting how we are turning this, what some people perhaps are considering a very negative situation, into a successful, positive one.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get started. So first things first, we're going to talk a little bit about sudden changes, because I think sudden changes happen in every aspect of life, not just in production, but in life. Obviously, in the creative world, you have changes occurring constantly, whether it's on set, in pre-production, and post-production. I mean, you've got a team and you've got bosses and you've got people to answer to, and there are sometimes really sudden changes that may throw you off. And I know COVID-19 was something that threw all of us off. It threw the entire film industry off, and as a result, how to cope with that, how to navigate through that, how to navigate through sudden changes. Let's start more so from, we'll work our way from smallest to biggest. Let's talk about some situations where perhaps you may have been thrown a curveball in pre-production.
Sure, yeah. We discussed this one a bit ago on one of the podcasts. During Armor of God, one of our first short films that we did, we had a close friend of ours pass away, pastor, and he was very close to us. He was basically, our mentor, spiritual mentor through the time. And when he was gone, it really threw us for a loop because he was heavily involved in our work.
He was involved in the film too, but also involved in a lot of the lives of all of the people that were involved in the film.
Yeah. And so we kind of put the project to the side. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to kind of reset your mind. Yeah. Really, personally for me, draw close to God, pray, figure out, how to move forward, renew myself spiritually, mentally, physically, in every way, and find a way to learn how to move forward, because we know scripturally, all things work for good for those who are in Christ Jesus. And so it's like you have to find a way. How could I build off of a situation that is heartbreaking and use it to continue laboring?
And it worked for us. But there is oftentimes the unique scenario and situation where, everyone copes with tragedy very differently. For you, as you explained, it was good to be able to just kind of step away from things for a minute, to just put life into perspective. Some other people may want to, just engulf themselves in work to keep their minds busy so that they don't go down, whether it be anxiety or depression or anything like that.
Right.
I think it's the role of the leader in that kind of a situation. For example, if it's project based,
Yes.
right, and you're in a project and something happens, like with us, you know, we were in the middle of a film, and we had someone whom was near and dear to all of us, and a part of the project also passed away during it. It's a part of the leadership team there to be communicative with the team. Mm-hmm. Talk to everyone, be open to communication, because through that you're going to learn how people will grieve and how they're going to cope, and you can then provide outlets for that. So for example, if I'm the type of person that I just need to know, I got to work, I got to drown myself in work in order to get through this. Well, as a leader, chances are the production is going to halt. So how do you handle that one person that wants to do that? I think, again, through communication, I think through understanding through
the
dialogue.
state we're in. Yeah.
I think that you're able then to come up with a plan for that person and say, well, okay, if you want to work, here's some things that can be done during this time so that it will help you through that grieving process. Whereas for you and I, we all felt, and I think everyone was in agreement, that we just needed to pause. And we just needed to be there for each other. Mm-hmm. We just needed to love on each other and make sure that everyone was okay, because it was a major blow to all of us on an emotional level, but also on a spiritual level. Because like you said, he was kind of like a father figure for a lot of us there, a spiritual father. And I think the right thing that we did was, okay, let's just pause production. But it took what should have been 8 months worth of work and turned it into 4 years, maybe three years, I think it was.
Yeah, and I think that that's something also to consider, that the grieving process does not turn into, putting things too far aside that will hinder the whole plan, the whole purpose of why you were in it in the first place.
And we did that because we kind of reassessed, and the film in the end was dedicated to him, because we were like, wait, no, we can't just stop. We can't just not go back. We can't just not finish the project. And it wasn't like a Hollywood thing where, there were some major execs or a studio that was like, you have to finish. We didn't have that kind of a pressure. We could have easily just not done it and been okay. But we then realized, wait, why did we get into this in the first place? Because there was an evangelical message to the film, and that was a part of something that all of us had agreed upon, including him. As he was speaking into us, this is a good thing. You guys got to finish this. It's great that you will have done
this is film. Exactly what he would have wanted, type of scenario. Yeah. I even think about when you look at Hollywood, which is very similar to kind of what would happen to us with the Fast and Furious series.
Yeah, Paul Walker. Untimely death.
Yeah, exactly. And films are a good way to pay respect. Sure. It's a good way to, because they put so much work into it. It's a way of showing, we're not going to just let this sit and also die. Yeah. So there are positives and negatives for everything, but for our project particularly, we knew we had to close the book.
And look, it could be different. Yeah. It could be different for different people in different projects. Sometimes, that project may need to just, end.
Sometimes within the project, things happen to people.
Yeah.
And the projects are so dangerous.
Right.
That
and some have been shut down because of certain scenarios, changes that have happened, deaths on set, and productions have been shut down. I get it. And so everything's different. So this isn't us painting a broad brush and saying this is how everybody must do it, but this is what worked for us. And we knew we needed to get back to it. We knew we needed to finish it, and not only finish it, but be as excellent as we possibly could be given the conditions. And then at the end, dedicate it and say, he had spoken into us in such a way where we built up the courage to even do this to begin with. So we owe it to each other, the team, the group, to complete it and complete it excellently.
Right.
And we did.
Yeah. And I think that's
yeah. But now, it doesn't necessarily need to be something as drastic as
right,
death,
and that's kind of where I was going.
That was
it could be loss of finances, or
you can relate with that because that's a major one. Yeah. But there are other things, exactly.
Yeah, I remember even one of our films that we did. We're moving forward. We're like, all right, at this point, we're going to get the funding for the particular project to build the set. And here we are.
Yeah, the funding had everything had been promised. We're like, okay, we know it's coming, but
here we are building the set and we have no money. All right, got to open up a credit card, and so it really changes what you could buy, what you couldn't buy, what was essential. And it slowed the process down where we're filming and we're still building.
Right.
And so
that was a major, that was a major one. And that finances is always, I think every independent filmmaker will always find some sort of like holdback, some sort of hurdle when it comes to the finances.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the front end where they either didn't raise enough or it's still coming in or something happens like to the cash flow where there's like a stoppage or a bottleneck or it ends or bad, management of finances and like you don't realize you're halfway through the production and you're like, wait, what? We ran out of money?
Yeah.
That can happen. And so like, how do you adjust to something like that?
Mm-hmm. That's James Cameron in every movie.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You ask, hey, mom, dad, can I get some more money? Hey, friends, hey, family, hey, neighbors,
all this stuff,
can I get more money?
it doesn't just have to be an independent film.
No, it happens.
It happens in Hollywood. They run out of money or they didn't have enough money allotted for this particular scene and they just blew out their budget on some special effect that they did.
And that can happen. And that's why, again, something that we always talk and we always stress, like the more preparation that you can do on the front end, the more you rehearse these things. And I'm not, whether you're rehearsing them in mind or you're rehearsing scenarios or you're anticipating scenarios and discussing them with your team, again, communication, the better you will be at troubleshooting when they come at you.
Yeah.
So like, for example, let's go back to the death scenario that we experienced in Armor of God. We had, although it was one of our earlier films, and we weren't nearly as effective and efficient when it came to like our planning and pre-planning, our R&D or even our pre-production. We weren't nearly as excellent as we've grown over the years, but we had still, to the ability and capacity that we had at that time, done a fair amount of communicating of the vision, communicating to one another of the script and the goals for the script and what we anticipated accomplishing, that everyone was on the same page. And because everyone had shared the same vision, when we went through the tragedy, we all came out of it closer together, tighter, sharing that vision, sharing that which was communicated prior to the sudden change. And that's, I think, what helped us rally together to complete it. And so I now apply that to other types of sudden changes. The more that you have communicated with one another and have shared the vision in a way where everyone's bought in, everyone understands it, it's well articulated, it's well planned, it's well drafted, drawn out, and rehearsed, the easier it's going to be to deal with sudden changes.
Yeah.
Any kind of interruption to the workflow. You'll be able to then be like, okay, well, we all know where we were headed. We were all going in the same direction. And so if there's a stoppage in that road where we have to come up with a way to, jump over that hurdle, once everyone's over, it's not like we're all going to spread in different directions because the communication has been there all along. We all know once we're over that type of whatever it may have been, diversion, distraction, we all then regroup back in the same direction.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's key, that verbal communication. And another thing on top of that, a real important element within it, it's also visual communication. And how everyone sees the head. And the head could be the director, the producer, the people that are on top. How are they expressing themselves during these times? Yeah. Are they keeping it cool? Are they relaxed? Are they at peace? Or are they agitated? Are they concerned? Are they worried? Everyone's going to feed off of that person, because if he's not under control, then nothing's going to be under control.
No, it does stem down from those individuals that people are looking to lead through, because it is a leadership based type industry where there's a hierarchy, there are very specific areas of responsibility that each person has, and when it comes down to a set, like a producer, for example, in that kind of situation has to step up and lead level-headedly and be able to have to rely on all of the communication and the work earlier on, because again, if you don't do that, again, if something that distracts everyone or sidetracks everyone comes and gets in the way, on the other side of that, people are going to then, they're going to scatter like sheep, like you've got to have a shepherd to draw them in and say, okay, this was the direction that we were all going, and now let's regroup and go back. Now, something that we're experiencing, a major change up in history, is this whole quarantine, COVID-19.
Right.
It has literally thrown a curveball at the industry. at every industry. I mean, the
pretty
film
much
industry,
shut
but at
down
everything,
everything.
just in everything. And so dealing with then kind of going back to, and I don't know that anybody, or at least anyone that I've spoken to, doesn't necessarily want to go back to the way things were. I think everyone's like set on, okay, we've experienced this major holdup. We weren't ready for it. Clearly, there were like gaps and loopholes in just how we were living life that something like this could derail us so much. So moving forward, we don't want to go back. We want to be prepared moving forward. We want to have, covered our bases. Like, for example, I know that all sorts of different industries are setting up protocols now, whether it's stricter CDC guidelines or stricter WHO guidelines or stricter, whatever. There are new protocols moving forward in the industry.
Yeah, for the good and for the bad.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, and some of it for the we don't know. We don't know how it's going to affect. It could be a major deterrent to, it could be very bad or it could be, whatever. It's just kind of something that we normally just fall back into the habit of doing,
Yeah.
And it's not like there weren't protocols prior to COVID-19 in place as far as, because there in every industry, there's always just kind of the general global protocols that one takes in order to maintain health on set, safety on set, rules and regulations. But now it's going to change. And so I don't know that after this major change up, people want to go back to the way things were. I don't think we can. We won't be able to. But moving forward, how do you kind of get things back in alignment? You know what I mean? Like, how does the industry, for example, recover? Because I was looking at some figures, and I think maybe the Hollywood Reporter had put out some of these figures, and by mid-May, the film industry had already lost $7 billion in revenue.
Wow.
By mid-March, $7 billion in revenue, and by the end of May, they're anticipating that it's going to be $10 billion. Now $10 billion in revenue for the film industry. I mean, how do you then come on the other side of that? Just kind of getting everybody, okay, here are the protocols, this is how we're moving forward. Well, what have we done?
Well, I can tell you for sure they're going to start to find ways to make sure it never happens again.
Well, yeah.
That's for sure.
Or something like this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much prognostication into future events they can think, but yeah, absolutely.
Definitely you'll start probably seeing more virtual content,
virtual
more 3D
meetings,
content.
Oh, content, yeah.
Yeah, content. Yeah. In animation. I mean, they've already started playing with that recent CGI movie that was pretty much all CGI. I'm blanking off the top of my head, but it's got the girl. I'm sure the audience will know which one I'm talking about, but it was pretty much all CGI. And it looked real. The characters are starting to look real.
Was Scarlett Johansson, the Ghost in the Shell?
No. What is it?
Ghost in the Shell? That was...
No. I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes.
Oh. Yeah. It was... we'll put it in the show notes. Alita.
Alita. Perfect, yeah. And that looked fantastic. Yeah. Now, you'll still see your plasticky tones and skin, and you'll see all that.
This started back with Beowulf, by the way.
Right, exactly. And even, Pirates of the Caribbean, seeing the textures in those characters in the sea.
Water, which is the hardest thing with CGI.
You're starting to see that we are going in a way where actors need to be scared. Not really, but you know what I mean.
You and I were talking about that, actually. It's like it's only a matter of time before the industry starts to offer actors licenses to their life and likeness, so that once they're dead, they will have the rights to their likeness, and their character, their persona will still continue because they have the rights to their body, visual, whatever, and they will CGI that actor. So we will have, for example, we can have, Will Smith until the year 3000, whatever, because at some point there will be actors, that...
In a way, that's kind of what Star Wars did.
You're going to offer me $1 billion for the likeness? Who am I to care once I'm dead?
Right.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. No, I mean, even Star Wars did that. They brought back one of their characters, one of the generals, in their movie, and they had, get the
so
license.
So that's happening
for
now, absolutely. That's happening now because they already had the license to that character. But I'm talking, right, and so that character could be brought back, but I'm talking like the actor.
Even actor personnel.
Just the actor.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, it's happening now. I think that, gosh, I wish I had read the article, but I've only scrolled through the headlines, but there's an influencer that's completely CGI. It's a CGI influencer now who I think she's like part black, part Asian. And they've given her a life, they've given her a backstory, and she now exists and she does movies. She does, product, advertising and stuff, and she's completely CGI.
Wow.
And what they're trying to do is get people to like buy into her life and follow her as if she were a Kardashian type thing.
Sure, yeah.
And
probably
so,
get a Facebook page.
Right.
Yeah.
She has all her social
Wow.
media. You can, So it's only a matter of time though till then people's lives follow that same exact track. So it's not just a character in a movie where, we want to bring back, one of the commanders from Star Wars who happened to pass away, or even Paul, like we were just talking about Paul Walker, right? So Fast and the Furious, they need to do another flashback moment and they need to recreate his face. Well, they can do that because they have the rights to that character. But I'm talking the rights to like Paul Walker, the
doing
man
another
alive
movie
with his family,
movie.
Different movies, any movie, It's only a matter of time. I mean, look, if there's one thing that COVID-19 has showed us is that virtual is the way to go because people are distancing more. They're going to be in their homes. They're going to want to watch things in virtual reality and VR, AR, augmented reality. And in order to create those worlds, you're going to need content. And in order to create content, where's content pulled? It's from from the world, from us, from the stories that we create. And if they're not going to get it from new stories being told, they're going to get it just from the lives that are actually physically being lived.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
That's
sooner or later you'll have digital basketball players.
Yeah. Digital sports. Yeah. I mean, people are watching right now. Like for example, every time that the Super Bowl, they simulate the season, right? And it gets the Super Bowl. On Madden, they simulate it. People watch that. They tune in and they watch it to see. Who does Madden anticipate? It's only a matter of time before. That's just how. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know.
In order to preserve social distancing.
And I mean, this pandemic is definitely has forced people into innovation and into new ideas. Is preventing it. It's preventive.
It is. I think I think there's going to be a lot more Zoom/Google type meetings. I think there's all sorts of meetings like throughout the creation of story, whether the creation of a movie. There's all sorts of face-to-face meetings that happen all the way from the get-go, like when you're just negotiating the picture all the way through till the end. And I think a lot of those meetings that you take, I think are going to now transition into, well, let's just do it virtually. Like why do we have to meet face-to-face? You can on Zoom, you can just connect your laptop, you can show them your screen, you can do a presentation, right then and there, present your script, present it to your investors. A lot of that, I think, is going to happen a lot more. I think people are going to do these meetings from the comfort of their homes. And I think that's kind of the way that the industry is slightly transitioning, which is unfortunate in a way because you do lose a lot of the, for me anyway, one of the most exciting aspects of filmmaking is just like relationship building. Relationship building, and that's going to be affected in a way where it's going to just be different. I don't think that we'll ever get away from relationship building, but the relationships are going to be, someone's going to have to come up with a new name. Like you've got your platonic relationship, there's going to have to be a new name, like your virtual relationship. Some sort of some coined word to talk about what are relationships that are formed, fostered, and never go outside the bounds of virtual.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to just accept that as the new norm because we're creatures of relationship, of face-to-face contact. That's what we want. We need.
That's what we yearn.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us sane.
Right. And so it's going to be very interesting putting on a goggles and just seeing your friend in virtual reality and just saying hi that way,
It's a Minority Report future.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. We look into some of these films, that in the past were just so innovative and so mind-blowing. and and we're seeing those futures.
And I see and we talked about this before. Cinematography Database has been working on some really cool stuff regarding virtual camera projection and having a green screen, and I could definitely see
live green screen too, all that stuff.
An actor just being at home in front of a green screen. He has a Bolt camera that it moves around the way it needs to, and then the director or the cinematographer is programming from a remote location. Yeah. And you're just, you're performing your scene in front of the green screen, and you're just in and out, and you did your scene.
I'm interested to see how. And look, where the money is where some of these things are going to be innovated. It's where it's going to come from, right? And right now, the money in the industry is in Hollywood, and so Hollywood is opening up this month. I read an article that they are slowly. Obviously, with all sorts of regulations, they're opening. New York is not going to open right away, but LA is, and these things are probably already being discussed. It's not like we're privy to any type of information that we know this, but
no. But when you lose $1 billion, or you've got to be ready to make a big
never
change.
Again. Yeah, never again. Yeah, absolutely. Now, there are certain issues, though. So, it sounds like it's going to be amazing, right? It's like, oh, wow, the innovation is going to create more room. It's going to require more platforms, different platforms, innovative platforms. But there are also a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of setbacks, too, because technology only goes so fast.
Right.
And our minds and our imaginations are constantly, ahead of the technology capable and available to provide that for us. And so we deal even right now, for example, trying to get a Zoom meeting together in order to get, some sort of plan moving forward, when it's impromptu, it's tough to be, accountability and things like that. There's still going to be the human element involved in all of this. And the human element when involved with technology is always kind of what holds things back. So we're going to see some progresses, but we're also going to see some some hurdles and some bumps along the way. Yeah. I am interested to see, though, just kind of how the industry will reinvent itself and move forward. What the new major platform is. I know TV is kind of it now. The film industry, as far as the big screen, for a while now has been on the decline. I think the only movies really that are being pushed and being made are the major tentpole films that are that have some sort of IP in their past. The Marvels of the world, right. The DC films. These mid-range films, the $10 to $80 million films are kind of slowly falling away.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. Is watch and see how big budget production films are going to slowly dwindle. They're going to start reevaluating how much they're going to invest on some of these productions, on some of these films. There's going to potentially probably be a gap between the large, Endgame style films, and then the lower end tier is going to go into the, between the 20 mil, 50 mil, and no more than that.
There's going to be it's not going to make sense to make that gap between the 20 to 80. Yeah. It's just not going to make sense to
spending
make those.
200 mil, on a film is going to slowly be gone.
You think so? I think the higher budget films are the ones that are actually going to be the ones that are going to take over the theaters.
So higher budget, but I'm talking about higher than 200,000. 200 million. I'm talking closer to
Endgame money.
Yeah, exactly, Endgame money. The big.
I feel like as long as that money comes in, as long as that film killed it. Right. Killed it. And if it takes 300 million in order to make however many billions that made, they'll spend that. They'll spend that. What I'm more concerned about the films that are returning back, 100 million, and they were made for 60, and they're returning back 100. I feel like there's going to be a shift in that when they see, television is doing a whole lot better. If we scale that back and we make, 10 episodes per season, you've got now however X amount of seasons or up the game, maybe 12, 15, 18 episodes per season, and you've cut that back to about $1 million per episode, but you're getting out of that a residual income over the course of X amount of years, I just don't.
There's definitely going to be a cutback and a tighter budget when everything rolls out from here on forward. There's not going to be that much waste, because there's a lot of waste in the film industry, with materials and things like that just kind of, what do we do with it? Let's just get rid of it. They don't think about selling it, that it actually costs more to take your time to selling something than to just throwing it in the trash. So a lot of that stuff's going to be reevaluated, especially when you lose billions of dollars.
It needs to be. There's a lot of waste in Hollywood, but sometimes it's like it costs less to throw something away than to store it.
Yeah. But like we mentioned, virtual is going to open up that opportunity. Having these green screens and be like, let's not even build this thing. Let's just 3D model it.
Create it.
Because architectural 3D modeling is actually
that's
the best.
That's actually really nice at this point. It's really believable.
Exactly. Architectural is
the human movement that's a little wonky. But
physics in 3D is really still off. They don't know how to handle the jumping and the falling. All that stuff is still off. The weight is still off in CGI. But architecture, cars, things like that, and
that looks good.
That looks good. And materials, texture materials look great. Reflections, all that stuff.
Lighting,
high dynamic range lighting, all that sky, all that is looking pristine. It's still the skin texture, and the physics.
I do think you're absolutely right. We're going to see a huge jump in film / content that is 3D based. It's just a lot of green screen.
Right, which is beneficial to these CGI companies. Sure. Because they've kind of been put in the back burner when it comes to funding or getting the correct amount of money to be able to do what they need to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
For example, to get the physics right.
Right, exactly.
To invest into research to get the physics right.
Yeah, and they've kind of been, the last. Let's move into this. Yeah, we'll have, a VFX supervisor come in, get all the shots figured out. But the actual funding focus to be very heavily directed towards the VFX companies is definitely going to grow.
Yeah, and then, companies like ILM have changed that over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. They've become such a staple in filmmaking that, people are almost like, okay, every film is going to have a VFX shot somewhere, right? Somewhere at this point. I mean, even in ours, in every single film that we've done, from Armor of God on, everyone has had a VFX shot. It doesn't matter how low budget our film was. It's just, you just can't get around it. And we also like to make extremely complicated sets, extremely complicated time periods. And so, it's like, how are you bringing first century Jerusalem into New England, Massachusetts? Well, it's a lot of CGI, right? But I do think that as money is shifted into this world, because there's going to be a greater demand on it, I think the physics will finally be done right. Yeah. Eventually, anyway.
They have the technology. I think Avatar was a stepping stone with their technology, and being able to capture face and capture also weight movement with all the tracking points that they had. So it's on its way for sure.
Now, I mean, I'm excited for even new innovations in camera technology in order to capture all this. Like, motion capture is kind of the way to go. But kind of going back to our little conversation about, actors' rights and having actors being, just a 3D creation. I can see that. I can actually see that happening sooner rather than later. This isn't like some distant minority, report future. I do think that there's even room for that transition now, and it's only a matter of time before somebody offers it, and then and an actor's going to accept it, because when you're getting paid, it's like, hey, look, you're going to get X amount of millions of dollars, and then when you die, it goes to your next of kin type of thing. It's like, oh, I can set up my whole family by just selling my rights. Everybody's just going to be out like, hey, buy me.
Yeah. Yeah. Never going to die. That's for sure.
Now, talking about the future, let's talk a little bit about how we have handled this change up that COVID-19 threw at us, this quarantine time, because we do have we just finished kind of going through the whole Underground premiere process. We gave Underground the short film for free on YouTube. That's available for anyone to watch right now. You can go on the Mount Harvest channel, check it out. Underground is on there. Even if you were to Google Underground on YouTube, just Underground, search on YouTube Underground 2020 short film, it should pop up. But as a result of that, we've started to kind of push that world created. We started working the pilot and writing that. I think, quarantine has helped us to have this time to really focus on the pre-production of things.
Think of ideas,
and new ideas. And I think a bunch of new ideas have flourished. We've got all sorts of, I think we've completed during COVID-19, we completed 3 screenplays, 3. And 2 features, 1 short, and a pilot. So 4. Yeah. So, one of them was pretty much already complete. We just kind of polished it during COVID.
Yeah. We, as a production company, we have been shut down. As a film industry, we've been shut down. We're not.
It's just you and I inside this office space. Like, no one else is coming in here, which is why we've been able to continue the podcast.
Right, but just like any other creative writer, this is time for you to put those ideas on paper, and we discussed that on some of our episodes. So giving us the opportunity to be like, hey, let's close this script up. Let's figure out how to close this story. And it gave us an opportunity to definitely bring those ideas that we've been wanting to do to a close.
Yeah, we revisited some of those darlings that were killed and said, okay, let's bring them back from the dead. And let's see if we can flesh them out a little bit and come up with storylines that develop off of some of those dead darlings. But I'm really excited and I'm really interested in that. Not that this podcast is about Underground, but to just kind of bring back the possibility of COVID-19 kind of threw a wrench. Well, it didn't really throw a wrench into Underground because we were finished with post-production as this was happening. It was already, wrapped up and ready to be launched. Although it is giving us some time to develop what we are going to be doing. We are hoping to start shooting something in the winter, provided, obviously the funding come in. I look at you all out there, provided the funding come in. But talking about how we have maximized this change up with the things that are going on internally. Like, for example, this podcast. This was something that actually completely came up as a result of COVID-19. Now, we had been talking about...
We discussed how just before all this happened, how we were like, we need to... Because Xavier and I, we know that there are people just like us out there. And we always felt, especially after going to so many film festivals and talking to so many people and having such great relationships with people, we're like, how can we have these conversations to continue even after the film festivals? How can we give of what we know to everyone? And so we're like, we got to get on a podcast. How do we do it? We need this, we need that. So we started doing our research then, but it wasn't until, COVID-19 where we're like, all right, okay, now's the time
to strike.
Everyone's home. Let's continue the conversation.
Yeah, and we did. And, we realized, okay, well, we only need the 2 of us. We're handy enough to be able to handle the cameras, the audio, the sound, and all of that just between the two of us. So there's nobody else inside the studio. It's just Jonathan and myself, and the camera's just running itself, and the audio's running itself. But we felt like, okay, well, we're quarantined. We're not going to hold back on creativity. We're not going to step back on offering others help. And usually we would do that on a, whether it's in office, working with other people, working with interns, working with, partners, and just kind of like rubbing elbows with one another, just building each other up and, pouring into each other. We can't do that. So what can we do? We were like, okay, well, let's do this podcast. Let's see what comes out. We've had some unique situations. We've lived a very interesting life, especially the last few years.
Which is a movie in itself.
It is. It is. It might be.
We'll see.
Dun, dun. But in the process of it, we also came up with some unique ideas for production.
Yeah.
We did do, I mean, in a way, we did film a little production. We did the Actors Roundtable.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the Actors Roundtable was a way for us to innovate, continuing with production, but not putting anyone at risk. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of Underground, what we wanted to do, we wanted to kind of educate the audience, again, continuing to give out resources regarding the production process, how the behind the scenes of Underground. And we decided, similar to how the Hollywood Reporter does their Actors Roundtable, we wanted to do a roundtable with our actors. However, we're quarantined, right? So we can't sit them in a room. And I don't know that anyone would have agreed to that. Maybe some would have, maybe some wouldn't have. But in order for it to be successful, we would need everyone. And what we decided to do is let's make it a virtual roundtable. And so let's film it, or at least let's give them direction as if it were in all of us together in space. And let's have them do their own cell phone filming, and we'll edit it so that it feels like it's one harmonious piece, and we'll put that together. And that was kind of us trying to just innovate.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that the coronavirus has shown us is that it is okay to create low quality video content. Because everyone's using their phones, their FaceTime cameras on their laptops, their 720p's or 1080p quality cameras, that it's just, it's expected in this time. So you're seeing, all these shows coming up and on YouTube, and it's like, oh, like that's pretty visually, it's not that great, but it's expected. The pandemic really created this acceptance of quality in production, which has made it really easy for us to, shoot on this little camera or shoot on the iPhone and get the crew to get together and film and say what they had to say.
Yeah, because I think everyone's realizing it's no longer a professional high-end crew that's filming,
doing these interviews.
It's like you with your cell phone, and so everybody's lowered their expectations a little bit, and everyone's a little bit more accepting. And so it's like, all right, I'll watch John Krasinski's Good News television network station thingy-majingy. I know it's being filmed on his iPhone, and so I'm not going to expect something crazy, but they've accepted it, and it's doing well, and people are enjoying it.
And which proves what we've been saying since the beginning, is that story is king.
Yeah, 100%.
Because, you can have an iPhone, you can have whatever it is that you have, a Samsung phone or your computer camera, and if the story's compelling, it'll grab attention.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, you want to use the tool for the job, right? If all you have laying around is a screwdriver, then, you're probably not going to do a great job banging in nails, So you're going to want a hammer for that job. However, if all you have is a screwdriver, maybe don't use nails, Use screws. And so if I'm going to apply that metaphor to, what we do, well, if all you have is an iPhone 11, for example, which is a phenomenal iPhone, the technology in it and the camera technology in it is great. And I'm sure, I think Samsung put out one that's even better. I think the Galaxy's camera capacity is even better. But either way, if that's what you have, that's the tool that you have, then write a story where you can use that tool in order to tell that story. So, don't write a story where you're going to need, 16 stops of dynamic range, that you're going to need, in 8K, and it's going to have to be at 1,000 frames per second. Don't write that story. Don't do it. Write the story that you can shoot. But at the end of the day, the story, if the story is great and you have the tool to tell that story, that's all you need.
Right.
And so we use John Krasinski as an example in his Good News Network. That's all you need. All you need is that iPhone. For this, all we need is a DSLR to shoot this podcast. It's 4K and it looks nice and whatever, but that's all you need. Mm-hmm. We don't have to set up a red camera in order to shoot this podcast.
Right.
And so I am thankful for kind of the acceptance that has occurred as a result of dumbed down expectations, and I think people are just they're realizing the reality of the time of the season.
Yeah.
This was a great time, if any, for those people that have like their whole lives have been waiting to launch that podcast or waiting to launch that blog or waiting to launch that now more than ever there's an audience. People are people have actually watched all of Netflix, so they're looking for something new.
Yeah, there's an audience, and then there's people who want to talk.
Yeah.
There's so many people. I mean, right now, Hollywood being shut down, all those creatives from every department have been all over social media wanting to express their skills, how they've done things. So if you go on YouTube, you'll find all these grips, these key grips, these DPs, directors. They're all over the internet just talking and expressing how they did this, how they did that, and just giving gold out to people.
So now we've created this podcast, Jonathan, and we're going to continue going through it no matter, even outside of COVID-19, where we've got a pretty solid momentum with it, so we're not just going to stop. I know that a lot of the podcasts that are out there are going to stop. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue, even if we're on set. We'll that night after we watch dailies, after the set, we'll go back to our place, to our trailer or wherever it is that we're at. We'll set up the microphones, and if it's a Tuesday, we will film our new one. It'll probably be about what we're filming. It may be about Underground. But just talking about our plans moving forward with the podcast. We do plan on making them a little bit more sequential. We are getting a little bit more organized. Our show producer, Alana Despena, she's phenomenal. She's just kind of kept us in line. She has been the brains behind the operation, and she's going to start setting it up so that the podcast is now a little bit more sequential. You'll see, for example, the next few episodes back to back, they're all related in the next 4 or so. Like, for example, the next episode that we're doing is going to be the cruise roundtable. So we're going to stick to the Underground theme for a couple of episodes. But about the future of the podcast. Anything?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we're noticing, and we're getting great feedback for it. One of the things we want to make available is have our email available on the page, so that you can contact us with more questions or feedback or anything that you would like to hear in the future. Giving people the opportunity to ask those questions.
Because the podcast can begin with the answering of the question and then just end wherever it needs to end.
Yeah, and we would love to do special episodes, that you suggest that we're like, that's right in line with what we wanted to do, and kind of take it, even as you mentioned, on the road and on set and stuff like that. So
that'll be interesting, just kind of breaking away from production and the craziness of production in order to create a little podcast about the joys of that day, filming in the snow, an 1850s period piece with slaves being chased by bloodhounds, diving into a river, and then coming inside, warming up a hot cup of cocoa and doing the podcast and talking about it.
Wow, I just had a deja vu.
Great. Cool. Well, I guess we are now at our Creators Tip of the Week.
Cool.
We are, as we do every week, we come up with some sort of a tip that will help you as a creator be more innovative, tell stories, or just kind of help you in your day-to-day life. Jonathan, what do you got for your Creators Tip?
So one of the things that I went to school for, I was graphic design, and one of the most important things that I feel in anything that you do with your work, with your company, production company, with everything, is branding. I think branding and how you express yourself with
Hands
clients
down.
and all that stuff, your expression is a huge thing. As you can see in the logo, one of the things that we do, I don't know if you've ever noticed the logo, I'll kind of break it down for you. The way things work and within the logo, it's Mount Harvest. And if you notice, obviously you see mountains, but what you don't see is a bird flying over a harvest and the sun. So it's basically you're talking to people off your visual, and basically it's an explanation of of a harvest that's awaiting us as we work and labor we're working
I mean, this logo is chock full of imagery, and it is communicating a ton. I mean, you point out the bird that's flying over the harvest, but there's the M.
A bird, scripturally is a representation of the Holy Spirit, you know, guiding, directing us to the harvest that awaits us for the kingdom of God. So it's very spiritual, but at the same time, it's still branding. It's an image that hits you every single time. And so with that being said, there's a really great channel. I'd like to give you the direction and sources for people that I like to listen to, something that I actually bumped into just really recently, things that it's like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh great, I do that. How could I instead of me creating a whole channel of branding and start giving you that, I'd rather give you a source that is in alignment with the things that I've done. And this channel's called The FUTUR. It's a blue logo, FUTUR, no E at the end. And it's really cool. He, the gentleman talks about branding. He talks about how to pitch, how to do pitches, how to communicate with clients, and how to express yourself so that people could be interested in your product, in your film ideas, scripts and stuff like that.
How to sell yourself, how to sell your product, how to sell your business. I've seen some of his stuff. It's pretty cool. It's really, really good. I'm sure that there are other stuff out there that is very similar, but his, I actually accepted his work because I actually liked his branding. And your work is a representation of your word, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's called The FUTUR. I don't know why I'm not finding it right now. Here it is. The FUTUR, no E at the end, FUTUR. And he talks about everything, branding strategies, successful creative tips, how to pitch, like I said, elevator pitch, hashtagging things on social media, how to do all that, which is stuff that we, do every day. You do it instinctually, but he gives you strategy behind the
exactly.
whys.
And that's all very, very important, because if you want yourself, your content, everything to be picked up by an executive producer, someone who's interested, they have to see your professionalism. They have to see that also the business end of things. And branding is the book cover of yourself.
Yeah. Super important. Yeah. At Mount Harvest, we're blessed to have you, the mastermind behind a lot of our branding. Although it is a group effort, we all do it together. But I can't talk enough about the Mount Harvest logo. I love it. Yeah. So my creator's tip of the week is a little different. I think I told Jonathan about it. He was like, "Really? You're basically telling them not to eat yellow snow." But no. Look,
you gave me a good tip of the week. So if this one isn't good, I can say the one that you gave me the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Oh, the last week one?
No. You told me when we were. Sorry, go ahead. Give me a tip, and then
you'll tell them this one?
If I don't like it, then I'll give them the one that you gave to me a while ago.
All right, cool. All right, so my creator's tip of the week it's a little bit more practical, and it's something personal, something that I was dealing with. So, obviously, for some of you, you could, this time, COVID-19, quarantine time, could be causing some stress. And some of us express stress differently. We all express it differently. Some of us will carry it in the shoulders. Some of us will carry it in our backs and our hips. I was carrying it with me into sleep. So, I'm usually a very low-key, not stressed out. And ask any one of my friends, ask anyone on a film set, I just don't stress in the natural when awake. It's just I see the situation. I'm like, okay, that's what it is. What use does it make for me to sit here and worry and fret and stress about it? Let's just come up with solutions to try and figure it out and solve it. But that doesn't mean that I'm not still carrying the effects of all the bombardment of the day, whether it's subconsciously in my mind or even consciously I'm thinking about it. And I realized that I was grinding. in my sleep a lot. And sometimes I was chewing. My wife told me that it sounded like I was eating a burger or something. I was just going, it's ridiculous. And I didn't know that. I only found out about it after going to my dentist and, discovering certain areas and certain things hey, Xavier, you may be grinding. I'm like, what? I grind? No. So anyway, that to me was a shocker. Okay. And I realized that it was also affecting my sleep until I got a mouth guard. So I guess that's my creative tip of the week, to just discern where it is and how it is that you express the stress, because it could be affecting you in ways that you don't know. It was affecting me creatively because I wasn't getting the rest that I needed. And then when I got the mouth guard from Exquisite Dentistry, it affected it. I wasn't grinding and hurting my mouth and hurting my teeth anymore, and I was sleeping. And since then, hey, look, we've been, busting out scripts and ideas, right? So obviously it helped. Anyway,
so get yourself a mouth guard and you'll find yourself writing Oscar-nominated scripts.
Yes, that is my creative tip of the week, but please redeem me. Go ahead, what do you got?
Oh, I was going to let you hang on with that one.
No, let's add one more.
You gave me something really good the other day, and I didn't know anything about it until you mentioned it. And it's a really good source for creative content, 10-minute content series.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll hand it to you.
You're going to let me do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, you sure?
Go ahead.
All right. So, okay, here's the thing. Right now, we're at the forefront of technology changing a lot of things, and people are used to, watching in 16:9 aspect ratio their whole lives to now turning things over and going 9:16. And because 9:16 and because our handheld devices have become just such a major cinema screen that is always with us, receiving, giving, content to us, the good people at Quibi decided to launch an application where they are creating content specifically for the cell phone, and not just advertising, but actual films in 10-minute segments, and
known actors.
Yeah, with well-known actors. Like it's not Hollywood quality yet, because it's still trying to find traction, but it is the Netflix of 9:16. It's literally, and it's dividing it into 10-minute chunks. And it's at the beginning stages, very beginning stages. So for all of you content creators, especially those of you trying to break into the industry, break into film, why not turn your cameras around and let that be your medium, and feeding resources, feeding content to these applications that are now going to launch. Because look, Quibi's the first, but it's not going to be the last.
Right.
They're similar in that they are streaming. They're SVOD, so subscription video on demand, or subscription streaming, and I think they charge maybe like $5 a month, $4.99 or something like that, and it's 10-minute content, and so you can consume it quickly, because that's the beauty of it. That's what they're doing. They're catering. They're catering to a generation that has less and less and less and less, attention span. I think we are now at 7 seconds or 8 seconds. It's less than a goldfish. Our attention span is actually, it is scientifically proven that we have the attention span that is less than a goldfish. Wow. So anyway, but they're now creating content to cater to that, so that a full story can be told in 10 minutes. Kind of similar to what we did with Underground, where we told a full story in under 10 minutes. The only problem is that Underground is 16:9, not 9:16. But if it were, that would be a great contender. It's going to change everything as far as like how you view the world, because before everything was about width, about the seeing wide the space wide, and now it's going to be about sky and ground, which is, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to think about that. Now you're gonna have to fill, when you're art directing your content, up and down. It's like, what can you do with the sky to make it more interesting? What can you do with grass to make it more interesting? Now people are going to innovate that, and they're going to fill that space, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for years we've been talking about a resource for short films, and we're like, short films, they don't make money. They just don't. There's no platform for them. No, and you'll find them out there, but they don't really get traction for your film. But this is something that is...
It's opening the door to a lot more that's going to come. I mean, they're the first. They're testing it out. I mean, Netflix lost a lot of money before it started making a lot of money.
Right.
And I don't know if they're completely, out of the black yet. But, look, these guys are onto something.
Yeah.
They're meeting a need, and they're disrupting the industry. And disruptors always succeed. Disruptors always succeed. So
and we haven't actually gone to see what content
I just downloaded the app, like when I told you. I think that was like a couple days ago. So I haven't
really dissected,
subscribed and gone in to dig deep. So
but I'm curious to know if that's a platform for our future content, or something we do on the side. You never know.
Let's open it up. Let's dig deep and see what's in there, and see if there's something that we can provide. But for those of you that are interested, check it out. Quibi. It's the app.
Cool. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's not as good as the self-care and discerning the stress in the body, okay? Like, look, you got to take care of yourself, guys.
That's true. That's true.
Well, that is all that we have for today's show. Thank you guys for joining us at The Harvest. This was episode 10. Special thanks to our amazing producer, Alana Despena, who actually, so a lot of you don't know Alana. She just graduated college. It was bittersweet. She graduated from Emmanuel, so she's local, in marketing and business. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to walk for her graduation, which is tough, and it's unfortunate. But she's going to be doing some amazing things with Mount Harvest. We're really excited to kind of get her in a little bit more full time now that she's out of college. You're going to see some great things coming out of this podcast, out of the website, out of the resources that we'll be providing you. So special thanks to our show producer, Alana Despena. Very soon, we're going to be posting all of our notes on the blog, on the website. That's going to be redone also, I hear. There's a plan to redoing our whole Mount Harvest website, which is all so fun and exciting for me. But to support The Harvest, you can visit our Patreon page, which now the Patreon page is officially populated. I know that some people had said, hey, there's nothing on your Patreon page. Silly us. We just set it up, but we didn't populate it. It is now populated with content, and it's going to continue to get populated with more content and awarded to those who become our patrons. Some behind-the-scenes content. So whether it's behind the scenes of the films that we do, or behind the scenes of the filming of the podcast, or behind the scenes of just our silliness and our brilliance. That is going to be on that Patreon page for our patrons. So
there's a lot of brilliance too.
There is.
A lot of brilliance.
Anyway, that is at patreon.com/The Harvest Podcast. Patreon.com, The Harvest Podcast. For shorter questions, you can reach me at xgarcia on Twitter.
At Jonathan Harvest.
And for anything longer than that, if you want to submit some questions to the shows because you want us to tackle those questions, please submit them to info@mountharvest.com. You can email us to info@mountharvest.com. Guys, that's all we have. Thank you so much.
Like, share, and subscribe. And we're trying to get a Venmo account going on because I know some people just wanted to give
Cash App and Venmo. That'll be set up.
So we'll throw that on the screen. So.
On the all the notes.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys.